What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. And with me I have some more RPG horror stories of the year. I know I haven't uploaded on here for a hot minute. It's not because I don't have any material to edit, it's just I've been kind of busy. If you've seen the video where I talk about how I lost my channel, you know that I do things outside of Tales Tomorrow. So I've been busy with that. The cat's been busy, I guess you could say. Also, I get to play some D&D as an actual player for once, but I still wanted to have something finished up for the end of the year, and I decided why not just get out of bed at 5 in the morning, I guess you could say, and just go through the top stories of RPG horror stories for the year of 2024. Also, I can't cover every story, so I chose like, I think top 10, 11, 12, I don't know how many stories I have. We just gotta go down the list and cover some that we have. And with that out of the way, let's get to some RPG horror stories for the year of 2024. Horror story in 3 words. I once ran a VTM game. One dude signed up. I explained the setting, available clans. The game took place in Kazakhstan, modern days. Explained the political powers, which clans controlled what. He said he understood everything. Then sends me his character, an elf druid. Honestly, there's probably 2 things going on. Either it's a wrong character sheet that was sent by accident, or maybe they thought, hey, VTM, that's probably like D&D, and modern day, Kazakhstan definitely has druids. I mean, you never know. There could be druids in Kazakhstan. I know Russia has Baba Yaga, so I mean, technically we have witches and wizards, I guess you could say. Either way, whether it's a misunderstanding or just a meme or something, kind of funny overall, just thinking about it. Elf druid in Kazakhstan. Or could be an unfortunate misunderstanding that maybe the new player is just brand new to everything and they don't know that things outside of D&D exist out there, like different game systems and such. Anyway, let's move on to the next story for today. LGBT Friendly. This is a really short one because I never got to join the game, but applied to a romance-focused game on LFG, assuming that since it was tagged LGBT plus friendly, there wouldn't be issues. I'm a member of the Alphabet Mafia, but when I applied and mentioned my interest in playing and that I would want to play a gay character, I was told that other players had listed homosexuality as a hard line on their consent sheets, so that wouldn't work. The DM didn't seem to be malicious, but I felt like it's worth a reminder that to be actually friendly to marginalized groups, you have to be unfriendly to bigots. If someone says they don't want any gay people in your game, and you're cool with that, you can't say it's an LGBT friendly game. I would also suggest you shouldn't allow people to use consent tools to erase entire demographic of people from your game world. Edit. Since some people have asked, it was explicitly anything gay happening the other players had an issue with, not that they didn't want their characters to be gay, which would have been fine. The GM said the only way it could work is if anything gay was kept to private channels, so none of the other players had to see it. I remember covering the story back in the day, and my point kind of still, I think, stays the same for it. It just feels a little bit strange to say LGBT plus friendly, but no LGBT plus activities. You can be gay, but how dare you be playing a male character flirting with another male character? It's like advertising a game to be roleplay heavy, but you ban roleplay, or say roleplay has to be done to private channels, which really doesn't make sense whatsoever. It's also really strange to think the DM is going through the consent sheets and noticing that some players are putting down no LGBT activities in an LGBT friendly game and saying, okay, yeah, it's fine, that checks off for the consent sheets. Either way, it was a really strange story to cover, but I mean, there's still a lot more for the stories. Some of these stories I've yet to even cover or even see. A good chunk of them I have seen, so it's going to be kind of like treading same ground, but I mean, it's just part of it. Either way, my stance on this post in this story kind of stays the same as before. And let's continue with the next one for today. T-shirt causes problem player to have a meltdown. This isn't my story, but this is what I witnessed last night at the LFGs. I'd gotten an email that my Pathfinder 2 books had arrived, so I headed to the store last night to pick them up. There were 2 people setting up a table getting set up for D&D. I'm assuming that the woman was the DM and she was setting up the maps, the screen, pulling notes out of her bag. As the clerk and I were chatting about the upcoming Superman movie, what looked like the rest of the table entered the store. One of them looked at a guy who was with a woman during the setup and stopped dead in his tracks. He just stood there, looking like he was about to ready to cry. Eventually he shouted, "You a-hole!" sobbed, turned around, and fled the store. I looked at the clerk with a raised eyebrow, and he said he's been simping over the DM for weeks now, pulling the whole "m'lady" crap. I guess he didn't like the t-shirt her boyfriend was wearing. I looked again and saw what set him off. The guy who was helping the DM set up, and I now knew was her boyfriend, had a shirt that said, "I'm sleeping with the DM." I nodded, paid for my books, and got out of there before more drama hit. I'm just trying to imagine the whole thing. It's a little bit difficult to imagine because I don't know what it is. It feels a little bit too perfect. The group walks in just in time for the storyteller to get the books and witness the whole thing, and for the guy to be over dramatic and go, "You a-hole," and storm out the store sobbing, and the shirt perfectly says, "I'm sleeping with the DM." I mean, not the shirt itself. I've seen shirts like that, definitely, but it feels just a little bit too convenient. Almost feels like a sitcom skit, you know? Still, if the story is real, absolutely hilarious. Even if not real, still funny as hell. Over a shirt that says, "I'm sleeping with the DM." I don't know why, but I'm just like sitting here giggling. I should be moving on to next stories, but I'm just I just giggling. I can't stop. Okay, we're just gonna stop. Move on to the next story. This one, very entertaining. Definitely great. DM takes away my paladin's powers because I stopped a struggle snuggle. Ooh, I don't think I've covered this one. I remember D&D Doge covering it. I definitely remember him covering it at some point. Kind of forgot most of the story, so let's retread some old ground. I usually play with friends, but we all moved all across the country after graduating, and I still wanted to play D&D in person, so I joined a local group. Campaign was on a dark and gritty side of things, but was mostly pretty fun at first. Unfortunately, it didn't last. I was playing an Oath of Devotion Paladin, fairly straight-laced, very much a traditional lawful good type character. The party had just arrived in border town and was waiting for a courier when Paladin sees a thug dragging a young elf girl into an alleyway. Obviously, I decide to follow him. The DM proceeds to describe the thug forcing the girl against the wall and tearing at her clothes. I heard enough and decided to attack. One smite later, and the thug is dead. The DM turned to me and said, smugly, that my paladin instantly feels his power dissipate, leaving him a level 4 fighter. The party was level 8 at this point. His justification was that the country we had just entered was really racist towards elves, so they had no legal rights at all. So the attacker wasn't committing any crimes at all. So my paladin had just murdered a guy and was thus no longer lawful. I protest that A, lawful good doesn't mean blindly following laws, and B, that's not how paladin oaths work anyway, but the DM wouldn't budge. So I decided to just leave the table. If you want to have a dark and gritty game, it kind of feels a little counterintuitive to have a paladin pick any other oath other than an oath breaker, because paladins are naturally by themselves, because of their oaths and because of the nature of paladin, they're supposed to be either good or lawful good or at least neutral. But at the end of the day, paladins are kind of, well, maybe I could be completely wrong, but as far as I understand, paladins' oaths are all about fighting the greater evil or just evils in general. Except Oathbreaker. Oathbreaker kind of goes the edgy route. I can be evil, ha ha ha. But if you're playing an Oath of Devotion Paladin, you see somebody in trouble, part of your tenets is actually to help the weak. There are 5 tenets for Oath of Devotion, and I can cover 3 here. Honesty. Don't lie, cheat, let your words be promised. Courage. Never fear to act, the caution is wise. Compassion. Aid others, protect the weak, and punish those who threaten them. Show mercy to your foes, but tempered with wisdom. Honor. Treat others with fairness and let your honorable deeds to be an example to them. Do as much good as possible while causing the least amount of harm. Duty. Be responsible for your actions and their consequences. Protect those entrusted to your care and obey those who have authority over you. And from what I understand, paladins are fully allowed to follow the oath. It's kind of like it's part of your character to take up this oath and make it a mantle for how you build your character. Obviously, there are wrong ways to build it. Like if you think the paladin is all about smiting foes, might is right, and I could do whatever I want regarding of local laws or whatever, and just murder hope everybody. Obviously, that's just you found lawful stupid. And of course, nobody wants to have a paladin that's found lawful stupid because that makes the game really unfun. Because now you're dealing with a psycho murder hobo on your party, tries to hide behind the oaths and behind those subclass the whole time. But in this situation, Oath of Devotion Paladin in the story saw somebody that needed help, and the follow the 3rd tenet, compassion, aid others, protect the weak, and punish those who threaten them. Very apparently, extremely apparently. I get the countries can have their own laws about specific like groups of people and stuff, but it doesn't make it right. You can always have corrupt laws and corrupt politicians that impose some kind of laws in order to oppress people. We've seen it both in fantasy and IRL as well. But taking it back to the story here, I think the paladin did the right thing. It feels really strange for the DM just to punish them just because like, oh, well, it's legal here to hurt elves and do whatever you want. with elves doesn't make it morally okay, and the Paladin is perfectly justified to follow the tenets. Either way, the player is dodging a bullet, not playing with his DM, because if this DM just gonna punish the Paladin for just going off the fine line, then I mean it's kind of lame. The whole point for Paladin is to step into a situation that feels wrong to them and just follow the tenets the best they can. I mean, imagine if another player steps out of a line for whatever reason. Suddenly are they gonna be punished this way too? Man, that takes away all player agency. If you're gonna have a dark, gritty game that you want players not to be a goody-goody two-shoes paladins, just say, hey, I recommend just playing Oathbreaker Paladin or some other paladin that doesn't care much about what's happening wrong with people. I don't know. To me, this seems like a pretty justified thing to do for Oath of the Devotion. I could be wrong. Let me know your comments down below if I'm wrong or not about this, or your thoughts about the situation. We're gonna move on to the next story for today. New player couldn't handle that my character, a woman, was stronger than his. This was my first year in college, and I joined a D&D group through a friend who is also in the group. Currently for the permanent campaign, the players are me, the only girl at the table, and 3 other guys plus the DM. Everyone is in my year except one senior with whom the DM plays basketball. Another guy, Jack, joined our table a few weeks ago. I've been playing a strength fighter while the others have been playing characters with lower strength. Jack made a paladin. When the rest of us introduced our characters to him, he started to point out how weird it was that I, the smallest person, was playing a strength character. We just laughed about it, though he kept bringing the point again and again and saying how now he had the strongest character. Eventually, my character and his had a tug of war and I won. He got really sore about it and started saying how D&D was not a skill-based game and that it didn't make sense while the others were letting me play a fighter. I told him to let it go, as did the others. He started arguing with everyone and it kept getting more and more heated until eventually he shouted at me that I could pretend to play whatever strength I wanted, but he could still beat me up. The senior got really pissed and told him to shut up and leave the table, which he did. I covered this story before, and I remember it very vividly, but man, it kind of points out to the guy, he can't separate fantasy from reality in such a way. There is such a thing as playing something that you are not. It's called fantasy. It's called role-playing. I play a cat girl on Final Fantasy 14. Does it mean I'm a cat girl IRL? No! I also play Catgirl VR chat, but does that mean I'm a Catgirl IRL? No! The guy just butthurt that his character is not the strongest character in the party and that he failed a strength roll. I'm assuming that's what they did. The guy just really butthurt that he probably failed like an athletics roll and he got lower roll than the fighter. Also, what does it talk about skill based? There is no skill in D&D. You just take the dice, you roll it, see what the number is, add your modifiers, and you either win or lose. Or you get some sort of a success or failure, depends on the severity of the number. There is no skill. It's a random number generator. That's all it is. That way you can put points to like get you a better favor, like proficiency and expertise in certain character and class features, but at the end of the day there's not really a skill when it comes to rolling the dice. There could be a skill for building a character and building a specific build, but when it comes to rolling dice, you just and you roll. Story is still as absurd as I covered, but not as absurd as the guy actually wanting to be like, well, I could beat you up IRL. Yeah, you probably could. You probably shouldn't do that though. Don't attack people for no reason just because their character rolled better than your character did, asshole. Anyway, my point still stands. Guy is a dick, an absolute just massive jerk. Let's get to the next story for today. D&D player demands Aryan homebrew race. Yeah, I definitely never covered this story before. This is a new one to me. Oh, okay, let's see what it is. About 3 months ago, I started playing D&D with some acquaintances from Game Shop. The DM and I had actually had experience playing Magic the Gathering together. He was a creative type, so he decided to homebrew a new campaign from the ground up. And when I say a homebrew, I mean he pulled no punches. This campaign was to be a mishmash of different themes colliding due to the convergence of realms. He wanted us, the prospective party, to kind of run with creativity as well. So he told us we could create our own homebrew races and classes. He would review them to make sure they aren't OP, but he wanted us to go nuts with the creativity so he could build on that. There were 4 of us playing, me and 3 other guys. Guy 1 creates a dinosaur race based on Triceratops, makes him a druidic savage, which is sort of like a mix between a druid and a barbarian. Guy 2 makes a Cthulhu spawn, which ends up being similar to a mind flayer, but playable. His class was called a dimensional fiend, which sort of like a wizard and a warlock and a cleric. Low AC, dark powers, but also a lot of healing spells thrown in. Then I made a character that was pretty much a ripoff of Spider-Man, but blue skin and with multiple limbs. Then we have that guy. He was a guy we saw in the shop occasionally and was super into collecting D&D and Warhammer 40k minis. He said his race was Aryan. He then min-maxed, more like max-maxed, the hell out of his racial stats in order to, in his words, make the most genetically superior version of a human I can. And then you secretly found a red armband in his book bag or his stuff that had a specific symbol that I can't mention on YouTube. That's kind of, that's what it's from, right? It's basically that, right? It's that? Yeah? Yeah, is that what we're talking about here? Is that what he means by Aryan? He also homebrewed an Alpha Warrior class, which was supposed to capture the warrior spirit of a true Aryan male. As he was describing it, we all just look at each other like WTF, and after a moment of silence, DM says, we're not doing that. That guy then said, why the hell not? It's an interesting concept. You said we could homebrew anything as long as it's not OP. He was very OP, just to be clear. I think it's because the DM saw on the character sheet it had a specific salute that could give you some buffs, and probably was like, yeah, no thank you. Let's not do that. DM said, I think you know why I'm not gonna allow that homebrew. And then that guy tried to say, it's okay if you disagree with the racial theories behind the concept. Just treat him like a joke character. DM just said, look, maybe this game isn't for you then. I really hate to be the dick who says no to a character concept, but I'm not allowing this. He then said, fine, I'll just play with my dumbass brother for another freaking campaign. And then he pouted and stormed off and left the game store. Never saw the guy again. Very weird encounter, but we proceeded and even picked up 2 new players with 2 new interesting homebrews. One was a Wookiee bugbear type of monster homebrew, and the other an elf dragonborn hybrid that played like a warlock sorcerer hybrid, but with armor class of a wizard. Oh, bullet dodged. Okay. Well, either way, be able to homebrew your own stuff is kind of creative, and as long as DM checks off for it, it should be fun. That'd be a lot of work, and man, you need to do a lot of work for it. But yeah, good on the DM to spot the red flag and be like, I don't want that in my game, and then to find a way to stop that and not have it be in there. Something that I feel like all DMs need to do is learn when to say no. I had moments when playing with my friends in a campaign when they wanted to create some sort of a crazy character archetype, or somebody that, I don't know, let's say for example, somebody that eventually takes over the world, and I had to give him a hard no on that because that would be kind of difficult to implement, and I want players to play as characters, not play as BBGs. I want to be able to make BBGs for the world and for players to just worry about what their character does for the story and everything. And when you have such extravagant or really strange concepts as the guy here, at some points you gotta understand your limits and know when to say no, whether it be for this or for really anything else at all. Just at some point, DMs just need to practice saying no, and it's a good thing to say no. It's a good thing to say that I don't think this is gonna work out for the campaign. Either way, really good on DM to tell the guy no here and to basically ask him to leave. Either way, let's get to the next story for today. My friend wants to play video games while I run D&D for him. Basically, in session 0, my friend of 5+ years started screen sharing a video game on Discord, and I told him off for it because I found it rude. We then had the convo in the image. I'm green, he's red. Really good friends and both want to play, so I'm conflicted about this. Screw you. Like, actually don't do that. I'll say yes, I'm gonna play games, but you know I'm paying more attention to Discord than any game I'm playing, especially since I'm playing games that are boring as hell. MSC, Timberborn, SnowRunner, Star Trucker, and Grinding DayZ, because I might get back into that game. You're not gonna play games while I'm running D&D game for you. Mad disrespect, uncool. It would be different if I was playing games like PF or Tarkov because I get invested, but I pay attention to VC. Also, if it's my turn, I'm gonna be on my character sheet. You gotta realize, I'm used to Game of Combat would take 2 months or weekly sessions to compete. If you get a problem like that, I'll time the turns. I don't want to run a meat grinder. Yeah, fair. Again, I don't know what to expect, so I'll adapt crap to what's going on. I want to tell a cool story with my friends, so please don't play video while I'm running a session. Like, if I find myself in interactions a lot, I'm not gonna do anything. I covered the story before and my point still stands. The guy's kind of a jerk for just not having the general respect. Just put down the video game for like 3 or 4 hours, however long the session lasts, and just to engage with the content. I understand the guy comes from like a meat grinder standpoint, so there's probably a lot of time that is spent running everybody else through the combat before you take your proper turn. But if the DM here is not presenting a meat grinder, he just wants to have a really good session where people can all pay attention to it, the least you can do as a good friend and as a player for a session is not be distracted by something else or start streaming games on the side, because that shows you clearly not paying attention. I get if it's like on a break, like if you take like a 5-minute break or you're checking up some stuff, like that's the only time I ever like pull up anything. If you're like on a 5-minute break, I'll pull up Twitter, see if I can find some funny memes or something, or maybe, I don't know, read up something about like a feature that my character has. Or if there's a question of how does the spells run, how do other people run the spell, is a clarification on this specific mechanic, and we'll just Google it, figure it out, and move on with the game. But if you're gonna be playing in like a TTRPG TTRPG game, just anything, the least you could do as a player is offer a little bit of courtesy and respect to the people at the table, DM and other players, and not have something on the side that's going to be distracting you from it. Otherwise, what's the point of you having on the table? Just go play that thing, or go watch that thing, or do whatever. And by the way, I'm not saying like just in general you have to pay 100% attention to everything. Like maybe if you check something on your phone in the middle of a break or while it's not your turn, that's completely fine. I'm not saying be complete stickler and have yourself be fully available for the session. But if somebody is literally screen sharing themselves playing a video game while D&D session is happening, they show it to themselves and to everybody in the party blatantly that they're not paying attention whatsoever. Anyway, next story for today. Immerse yourself in a rich fantasy world with this handy list of slurs. Okay, I got to read some of these, and I gotta be honest, these are kind of crap. I mean, here, we'll put up a list over here, and we'll just go through them. What, your first one is for tieflings, spawn. Spawn? Is that really the best thing you can come up with? Who wrote this list? Devil, demon, devil spawn, hell spawn, stuff like that. Sounds like you have a lot more flavor. Spawn, that's the best thing somebody can do. This list doesn't get any better, by the way. We have things like Aarakocra, crows, cocks. Where's Birdbrain? Asimar, Skyers. What is Skyers? Oh, because they're like angels that can fly in the sky and stuff? Is that why? They come from the celestial heavens? Angel boy, angel girl, stuff like that. I don't know. It's supposed to be a list of derogatory terms, things like knife ear or hellspawn and stuff like that. It's supposed to be like a mean thing. Skyers doesn't feel like anything specific. It feels like, I don't know, a name for like a flying creature. That's what it feels like. We got centaurs have half-breeds and ponies. Ponies is a pretty okay one. Dragonborn has scalies, half-breeds, snakes, worms, geckos, kobolds, mutts. I mean, that's a little better, I guess. Drow have cavemen, underscum, dirt elves, dirt skins. These are okay. I don't know. Somebody told me the Drow kind of have a bit of a connection, or like a loose connection to like Australia, thunder from down under kind of thing. So yeah, literally they're from the other side of the world, which I guess for me in America would be Australia. We could probably adopt some different terms, like maybe just take a specific term that's not really a slur in Australian. It's more like to call somebody a redneck, a bogan. Just use that. Use bogan and just make it so that it means something, I don't know, really mean and undercommon or something. I don't know. Elves, tree huggers, tree huggers, and pixies. What? Where's knife ear? Where's knife ear? Look at this. I have kind of like an elven ear on Morrow. Knife ear is like the most common one for elves. Why don't you use a knife ear? When I was on a VR chat roleplay, they had a kind of like a gritty kind of universe, and some people just generally didn't like elves, and I played as an elf character. So when others called me knife ear, I mean, obviously, point of contention, but I really liked it. I thought it was a really cool term. Like, yeah, it adds a little bit of that kind of animosity and aggression, but I don't see any other thing to call elves other than knife ear. They have pointy elf ears, like knives, and they're kind of conniving as well. Very sharp, very sharp-witted. Furbolgs have cows and mooers. Genasi have nothing. What, 3 wishes? Genasi come from genies, like half genies. The best term that I can think about is like 3 wishes. Like, calm down there, 3 wishes. It's like it's a genie thing. I don't know. Maybe it's not a slur, but I mean, maybe it's like a witty commentary. I don't know what it is, dude. A witty quip. We'll just call it that. Marvel-esque quip. Giants have nothing. Gnolls, dogs, scabs. Gnomes have stumps, toadstools. Goblins have greens. Green bean casserole. What, like green beans? Green bean casserole? Green bean actually would be a funny term. But I prefer that for the goblin. You green beans. It's just silly at this point. We got Goliaths, stone skins, half-elves, half-breeds, half-pixies, mutts. Halflings are stumps and children. And when a mother goes out to the front of her lawn and says, "Come to dinner, children," and all the halflings look at her with so much scorn. I don't know how this listed up on a top post. Maybe it's because it got to the top post because it's just like a nonsensical list. Anyway, I don't think we should make like a better list of this, but I mean, this kind of gives a little bit of creativity that this could use a little bit more work, a little bit more creativity to it. Like, especially tiefling, hellspawn. Hellspawn is a perfect one. It has something to do with hell and the hellish nature, and spawn as if like you're not a human, you're more like a creature that just like crawled out of the hole somewhere. I think it's a perfect insult for tieflings. DM forces my character to go through a breeding factory. I don't think I've ever read this one before. This one completely missed my radar. The title is ridiculous, but you know what? We're reading it now. I'm no stranger to D&D. You know the rules, and so do I. I've been playing at my local game store shop with various DMs and parties for about 6 years now, but about a year ago, I normally walked into what can only be described as the most unhinged fever dream of a campaign I've ever experienced. Our DM pitched the campaign as a dark, morally complex exploration of a dystopian fantasy world. Cool, I thought. Something gritty, something Game of Thronesy. I rolled up a half-elf rogue. Session 1 hit the ground running. After we did our intros in the tavern and everything, we were accosted by a band of hobgoblins and the regular goblin slaves. We were captured by an evil hobgoblin empire and sent to labor camp. During the second session, my character, Lyria, I am a woman in real life and was in a campaign as well, was pulled aside by the guards for special processing. Turns out special processing means was being sent to a breeding factory. God, this is awful. This is awful. I feel like you're a guy or you're playing as a guy, this wouldn't be a thing. But I feel like the DM really just was like, oh my god, we have a girl in this session and she's playing as a girl. I gotta make her go through the breeding factory. If you were playing as a guy, I bet you this wouldn't happen. But for whatever reason, this scumbag DM was like, yeah, you know what? Let's send her to the breeding mine. A factory where prisoners were forced to produce the next generation of alpha goblins to build an empire that will last 1,000 years. DM then leaned in, smirked at me, and whispered in my ear, Larry's unique half-elf DNA makes her a prime specimen to spread her legs and breathe. God, that sounds gross. Don't whisper that kind of stuff to anybody. Man, women, whoever, don't whisper this stuff to anybody, you freak. He then showed me an AI-generated picture of an alpha goblin that supposedly took the best aspects of humans and elves to create a master race. Jesus Christ. He then described the factory in excruciating detail. There were assembly lines, genetic analysis devices, gas chambers. What the fuck? What the actual fuck? Is this DM related to the other guy in the story, the one to make the Aryan homebrew race? Does he also have a red band in his backpack and likes a particular type of salute? Holy shit, dude. Chambers was specimen deemed unfit and rows of prisoners. And those deemed fit were taken to a special room by a group of breeder hobgoblins in which they would have their way with human elf and half-elf women. He would describe in the most graphic detail how they would gangbang and stuff. This was the most animated he got the whole campaign, and he kept describing it as the sexy side of D&D, which really grossed me out. This is not the sexy side of D&D. This is a gross side of D&D. This is just this guy's fetish just put into a game. This guy decided, hey, I have a good selection of players. Should I be running a regular campaign? No, they'll be my victims for my weird fetish stuff. Yeah, let me go ahead and make the only girl at the table feel really weirded out by forcing her to my fantasy breeding mines to make super extra alpha hobgoblins. Jesus Christ, dude, this is the kind of stuff that is not okay. Don't stick your fetishes. Keep your fetishes out of games, whether you're a DM or as a player. I tried to object in character, but the DM shut me down with the classic, your character wouldn't be able to resist excuse, and said she was charmed by enough spells to make her enjoy it. Ugh. So she's basically just a sack of holes for the goblins to use. Ugh. And then he had the audacity to pull out a chart labeled breeding success percentages. It had me roll dice to determine my fertility. Nat 1 meant I died instantly from the group activities, and Nat 20 means I became the breeding mare for their empire. He then said, as long as you don't roll on Nat 1, you can still go on quests while pregnant. Jesus Christ, what a freak. Has a chart that he pulls out just for the specific reason. You know what I imagine him? Imagine him be like a disgusting little goblin, just a disgusting little dweeb that has a chart that he printed out like 7 years ago that he created for like just for this specific moment, and the chart just has like crust marks all over the place and everything just stuck together. It's so sticky. It's just disgusting. What a disgusting fucking human filth. I then got up and noped out of the session. Good. The barbarian player followed me, muttered something about needing ear bleach, while the DM kept yelling about how it's crucial to the story, and that you can come back for revenge if you want. I'm not afraid to kill off some hobgoblin breeders, and it's a dark world, what'd you expect? But no. Maybe for some people, but not me. I just hope everyone who jumps into that crap show knows what they're getting into. This is not dark and gritty. This is someone's fetish masquerading as a D&D game. Dark and gritty would be like dark, like emotionally dark and a bit depressing. And probably with a lot of tragedy and more misery rather than joy and happiness. This is someone's fetish disguised as a D&D campaign, so they can pull out the little chart of fertility and stuff. This little goblin creature that tries to run this game, he just tried to get the rocks off by making players just deal with this. They want a captive audience, they don't want players. They want somebody there just to be witnessing to the weird fetishes, and hopefully find some other freaks out there that are also into that. If you want to run a fetish game with a bunch of this freaky stuff, advertise it as a fetish game with this freaky stuff. And maybe you might get lucky, you find other degenerates that also like that sort of thing. There's nothing wrong if you want to play in this sort of games. If you want to play in like a sexy dungeon adventure game where you just have a bunch of succubi from Succulandia and all they want to do is just like dominate you with their succubi powers and you have to try to resist them. Oh no, get away, sexy succubi ladies. I will not be besmirched by your charms and beauty. Then do that. Do whatever you want, but advertise it as such. Let people know ahead of time, this is that kind of game. If you're not interested in it, please do not sign up. I'm only looking for other people that are into this kink in specific and this specific type of game. Don't masquerade your game behind the veil of, oh, it's just a dark and gritty game. Oh, it's just a regular game. Or it's just regular D&D. There's definitely a lot of stories that I missed out throughout the year, and it's kind of... never mind. I was about to say it's kind of nice to cover them again, but it's really not nice. It's gross. I'm glad I'm covering them before the end of the year because I get to see some crazy stuff that I've never seen before. But either way, let's go ahead and get a little bit of brain bleach for ourselves and move on to the next story for today. Hopefully it's not going to be a weird fetish game. Player has a problem with women. I'm his female DM. A few weeks ago, a friend of mine introduced his friends to us and we got along. Said friends that asked if he could join my campaign, which sounded fun for him. And I agreed after I've done a session 0 with him and got a good impression of him. He rolled his character and joined the party. Now I'm DMing for 3 IRL friends who are guys, and our dynamic is very easy. We joke about each other and make stupid jokes about gender stereotypes, never crossing a line though. For example, when I went to the kitchen to grab a drink with my headphones on to play online for Discord and Roll20, my guy friend said, "Good. Exactly where a woman should be." Again, I take no offense in such jokes because I know he doesn't mean it in a harmful way. We all can laugh about it. The guy who didn't respect me is another story. This is a story that I covered before, and my point still stays. Like, if you have a dynamic with your group of friends and that's just the kind of like vibe you guys have, hey, I mean, do whatever. It's whatever's comfortable for y'all. This new guy, however, is gonna be a bit of a problem. He has a bit of a chip off the old block. Is that what they call chip off the block? I don't know the term. Basically, he has a bit of a problem with female NPCs, and I guess just women in general. I recall one time where my players investigated an abandoned ship. There were no crew left and they wanted to find out what happened to them. I wrote a little adventure around it, and after some hours, they found out and defeated the evil. I was glad everyone was having fun. Then the problem player asked, "That was cool. Good job, Daniel." Daniel is the friend who has introduced us, had been playing for years, so he got a lot of experience. I was confused, so I asked back, "Why Daniel?" To which the problem player answered, "Didn't he help you with it?" I said that I did in fact wrote it by myself. There was an awkward silence and he just went with, "Okay." Like he didn't believe me. It was weird, not gonna lie. There've been some minor things that have happened too, which just got me the feeling that he either doesn't like my style of DMing, my campaign, or me overall. For example, he made a snarky comment about every female character I introduced, them either being too annoying, too cliche, too babbly, or too childish. One comment struck with me, with which he said, "I don't know, why are you doing this? Women don't act like that." Big news, I'm a woman. I know how a woman acts and feels. He then just went with a snarky, "Yeah, whatever. Maybe you're just not woman enough." Again, I rubbed it off as a poorly made joke since it's common in our friend group to joke about such things, but I realized that he started to make meaner comments. My voice was too high and screechy all of a sudden. My missions were boring. My DMing style was not enjoyable. I talked to him about it. He said he was sorry, he was going through a hard time. Told him that I understand if he was in a difficult place, but not to let his frustrations out on me since. And yeah, that's actually a very normal thing to do. The guy clearly has a chip of the old block, and for whatever reason, he just doesn't like you because like your voice suddenly is a problem, or the way you describe NPCs is a problem, and only female NPCs as well. Like if the guy knows he's going through a tough time, he should probably have a little bit of self-awareness and be like, hey, maybe I'm going through a tough time. Maybe things are going a little bit rough. Maybe IRL is bad, work is bad, whatever. I probably should not be taking all that stress and bringing it to this game at this DM that literally is not doing anything but trying to provide me with a fun, entertaining experience. You are a guest. You're a new person in the group. At least you could do is show a modicum of respect for your DM that's running a game and not be a dickhead to them. I still feel like this part of the story, the guy is just genuinely doesn't like women for whatever reason and just lashing out the DM here. Don't play, if you actually don't like women, don't play with a woman DM or women in the group. His behavior and attitude is just really strange, but the DM is taken in strides, like really tough skin. Kudos on the DM for that. Anyway, sorry, I'm just retreading old ground. I covered this story before and I'm just repeating the same comments. Let's continue. But then another mission, I had enough and realized that he was just not having fun, but that he had a problem with women overall. Players needed a way to cross the ocean and they hired a captain, a female captain. I heard problem players sigh, but focused on them negotiating the price for the ride. Short time later, they were on the ship and the captain asked them about the backstories a bit. Problem player answered, I don't want to talk about it with some wench. I was surprised since the captain hasn't done anything yet besides them taking on their ship. Me as the captain, I will not tolerate someone disrespecting me on my ship. Better watch your words. Yeah, whatever, dude. Your eyesight might not be working fine, but I'm no man, son. Somehow, that triggered him to where he wanted to duel her for his honor or something. Asked him out of game if he was sure, since she was several levels higher than him, but he insisted. So they fought. He lost, of course. And when I tell you he was freaking out, he wasn't just disappointed that he lost, he was straight up angry. We asked him to calm down since it wasn't the end of the world, and I told him to leave the call for a while to let the steam off, since it was very uncomfortable for us to hear him rant, to which he said, stop telling me what to do, no woman tells me what to do. And that was it. I realized that he just has a deeply rooted problem with women, fictional or not, and that all the snark that he threw towards me was because of this. He left the call and our friend Daniel said he would talk to him, but I didn't want the guy back in my campaign, for my sake and the other female friend's sake, to which everyone agreed. Don't know what happened after. Daniel hasn't mentioned him again. Maybe he ended the friendship. I don't know. Just hope the guy gets help. The guy clearly has some sort of deep-rooted issues with women and he decided to still stick around with the game, knowing that they have a deep-rooted issue with women. Now, there could be a bunch of things going on, maybe some sort of past trauma or whatever, just like a really stressful environment they're living in. But either way, regardless of what kind of stuff you got going on, it's not an excuse to be a dickhead to anybody, men, women, anybody at all. If a person pisses you off for whatever reason, probably means you have a problem of your own. And you should probably remove yourself from the situation before you become the ultimate problem, which the guy is the ultimate problem here. But instead of saying, hey, this is just not for me, I'll find a different game, he decided to stick around the whole time and just be continuously snarky a-hole. Maybe he really liked the game. Maybe he actually genuinely enjoyed it, but for whatever reason, his weird dislike of women or some sort of background trauma with women, I don't know. For whatever reason, he still kept coming back regardless though. So I don't know what's up with that. Maybe he did like the game, but his weird deep-rooted issues with women for whatever reason just made him just be an asshole. But he just really liked, I don't know, it's really weird. If a player is joining into your game and they really hate, not just dislike or, you know, just tolerate it, but they hate something or everything about you or the characters you're making and stuff, and creating such a problem like this guy is doing, like he just has a problem with every woman in general, both IRL and imaginary, then probably best to either talk to him and figure out like how can this advance forward and how we can move on past that, or just remove the guy out of the game if he doesn't remove himself out of the game. Anyway, like I said, I'm just treading old ground. I already made my comments before about it. You've probably seen it in videos before, but either way, whew, are you tired? I'm a little tired. I've been recording for about an hour and a half, so I'm gonna go sit down and edit this, but I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video, and thank you so much for sticking around with the channel. 2024 has been a really rough year, extremely rough year for me, and honestly, I want to just say it might be a contender to 2023, which is also was considered to me before the worst year of my entire life. I feel like this year is probably even worse at this point. I don't know, it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there to like the worst year ever. But the year has been rough. I don't want to make this channel just me complaining and bitching about this year. This year sucked. This year sucked for everybody. I understand. I'm not the only person that had to deal with a lot of stuff throughout this year. But I do want to say a couple of things. First, I just want to say thank you so much for still being subscribed to the channel, following the channel, and letting the channel grow to as far as we have. We have, what, 4,500 subscribers? It is
nuts. It is crazy to me. It's crazy to me to think that this little project, this tiny little project that I started a year and a half ago, roughly a year and a half ago, spring or summer of, yeah, like late spring of 2023, this tiny little project went as far as it did to this very point, and how far I've gotten throughout the last, almost 1.5 years. To see this channel grow this much and to have such an amazing, wonderful community of viewers and subscribers that participate in videos and comments and stuff and come back to watch these videos and just to hang out with little old Morrow over here, it warms my heart. It's a silver lining to this rough year, dude. So I just want to say thank you so much for supporting the channel and for finding me and for sticking around and subscribing and for being part of the community on this channel. For real, you guys make this channel such a joy to run and such a joy to make videos on. Second, I want to say a huge shout out and huge thanks to the content creators that helped me when I was dealing with the loss of the channel, for shouting out towards YouTube and getting some attention, some spotlight. So huge thanks to Crow's Perch, D&D Doge, Loot Goblin Marketplace for helping signal boost the issue when I was losing when I literally had no access to the channel. Thank you guys so much. You guys are realist, and it warms, you know, it's gonna seem weird to say, but having my channel be nearly lost has helped wonders for making connections and taking the first step to saying hi to some of the content creators that have inspired me to create a channel like this. With all the horrible things that have happened this year to me and just all the rough things that happened, there have been moments, pockets of goodness and happiness that have made me feel grateful for something this year. When you are stuck in a rut and you're dealing with so much misery, you feel extra grateful for the good things you have. And the things that I have are the community that we have on this channel, my friends that get to play D&D on our very own D&D server, and the fact that I even get to say hi to some real cool content creators during my horrible time of need when I was losing the channel. Just want to say thank you guys so much for this wonderful year and for making it the best it possibly could be. In a year that's filled with nothing but misery and depression and regret and just really negative spots, thank you so much for being the silver lining in my life. Man, I might want to cry, dude. I want to cry. I'm gonna go ahead and probably take the rest of the year off and work on getting videos done and stuff. I think I'll try to do a stream on the other channel, but I don't know yet. I don't know. This has been a long year. Maybe a lot of time for myself might be a good thing. I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you next year. Thank you so much for spending your 2024 with your dear boy Morrow. See ya.